Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Joe Wise, and this is the Undrafted Amateurs Week 10 NFL recap. It was an exciting weekend with a lot of close games, so let's take a look at all 14 of them. First up, we have the Thursday night matchup between the Panthers and the Bears to help determine which early round draft pick the Bears earn and which one they get from the Panthers. This game, for the most part, looks like what it was, two of the worst teams in the NFL squaring off. The game started with three quick, unproductive drives before the Panthers jumped ahead with an electric 79-yard punt return by Smith-Marsette. After 30 more minutes of game time and a string of field goals, the Bears finally capitalized on a short field with a Deontay Foreman touchdown in the third. At the end of the game, Bryce Young led the Panthers in what looked like a potentially promising drive before it fizzled out and resulted in a missed 59-yard field goal attempt. Final score was Chicago 16, Carolina 13. Sunday morning kicked off in Frankfurt, Germany with a low-scoring affair between the Colts and the Patriots. The Patriots opened the game with a 13-play, 61-yard drive that resulted in a field goal. Then the Colts responded with their own 14-play, 75-yard drive that was capped off with a Jonathan Taylor touchdown. But that is where the offense stopped. The next 7 drives all ended up with punts, which included 4 consecutive 3-and-outs. No more points were scored until the fourth quarter, where a pair of field goals were made, followed by a pair of Patriot interceptions being thrown. Mac Jones was benched after throwing the first pick, only for New England fans to watch Bailey Zappi throw another pick. Colts win this high-scoring showdown 10-6. In one of the most exciting games of the weekend, the Baltimore Ravens got off to a quick 14-0 lead over the Browns within the first 5 minutes of the game. Less than a minute in, Deshaun Watson threw a pick six that was followed by a 3-and-out and a quick Ravens touchdown. It was looking like the Ravens were about to destroy yet another team. Fast forward to the third quarter, down 24-9, the Browns cap off an impressive 17-play drive with a Kareem Hunt touchdown and successful 2-point try to make it a 1-score game. The Browns then forced the Ravens into a 3-and-out, but muffed the punt, and the Ravens recovered and then scored a touchdown, extending the lead by 14. But the Browns then responded with a touchdown of their own. With a 7-point lead, Lamar Jackson then threw a pick six of his own, but the Browns missed the game-tying PAT. So now down by 1, they forced the Ravens to punt, but then drive down the field to kick a game-winning field goal as time expired. Browns win 33-31. In Pittsburgh, the Packers and Steelers combined for a surprising 30 points in the first half, followed by only 4 field goals in the second half. For the Steelers, Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren combined for 183 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground, while for the Packers, it was mostly done through the air as Jordan Love threw for 289 yards and 2 touchdowns. Down by 4 with a minute left in the fourth, Love and the Packers offense marched 65 yards downfield before throwing a pick as time expired. And then, of course, things got a little bit scrappy. Steelers win 23-19 and improve to 6-3 on the season. And the AFC North looks to be the toughest division in the NFL right now. And perhaps the most anticipated matchup of the day, the slumping Niners traveled to Jacksonville to take on the red-hot Jaguars. And it was all one-sided. San Francisco ended their 3-game skid and looked like Super Bowl contenders again. With the addition of Chase Young, the San Francisco defense looked elite, forcing 4 turnovers, having 5 sacks, and allowing only 221 yards of total offense to the Jaguars. On the other side of the ball, they put up 437 yards of offense and protected the ball against a great Jacksonville defense. Brock Purdy threw for 296 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks with a 148.9 passer rating. George Kittle went over 100 yards on the day with a touchdown. Deebo Samuel was back making an impact receiving and rushing the ball with a touchdown. And Christian McCaffrey had over 100 yards of scrimmage. However, the big story was he was unable to find the end zone and break the NFL record for the most consecutive games with a touchdown. In the fourth, with the rest of the starters out, they tried to give him a shot, but Jacksonville's defense held strong. In dominant fashion, the Niners win 34-3. In Minnesota, the Josh Dobbs magic continued as the Vikings went up 27-3 on the Saints. Down 24 in the third, Derek Carr went down with a concussion and right shoulder injury, and then Jameis Winston took over. Jameis Winston and the Saints went on to score 2 touchdowns, but ultimately fell short, losing 27-19. Josh Dobbs ended the day with 268 yards and a touchdown in the air and 44 yards and a touchdown on the ground. The Vikings have now won 5 straight games without the combo of Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. In Cincinnati, the Bengals struck first with an early touchdown pass, but then Houston scored 20 unanswered points before the Bengals scored late in the third. Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense rallied, and Evan McPherson kicked a game-tying field goal with a minute and a half to go. CJ Stroud then, for the second week in a row, led the Texans on a game-winning drive that resulted in Houston kicking a field goal as time expired. The Texans put up 544 yards of offense on the Bengals, led by Devin Singletary's 150 yards on the ground and CJ Stroud's 356 yards in the air. With Houston's 30-27 win, both teams now sit at 5-4 on the year. After an emotional loss to the Texans last week, the Bucs came out and took care of business this week against Tennessee. The Titans struggled to get anything going on offense, and Derrick Henry was held to only 24 yards on the ground. For the Bucs, Baker Mayfield looked pretty solid, throwing for 278 yards and 2 touchdowns with 1 pick. And with the 26 win over the Titans, the Bucs were able to stop their 4-game skid. Out in LA, we had another extremely exciting showdown between the Chargers and the Lions. This was an offensive showdown. Down 10-3 early in the game, Justin Herbert got off to a rough start and threw a pick on his own 33-yard line, but the Chargers defense held strong to force a turnover on downs. From that point on, Herbert threw for almost 300 yards and 4 touchdowns to tie the game at 38 late in the fourth. And then on the final drive, the Chargers defense forced a 4th and 2 on the 26-yard line with a minute and a half left. But Dan Campbell made one of the gutsiest decisions I've seen from a coach in a while to go for it instead of kicking the go-ahead field goal. He wanted to have the ball as time expired, and the Lions got the first down and ultimately kicked the field goal as time expired to win the game 41-38. Also, in case anyone was concerned how the Lions would use Gibbs now that Montgomery's back and healthy, the duo was just fine, combining for 193 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground and 34 more yards in the air. Amon-Ra St. Brown also went off with 156 receiving yards and a touchdown. In Kyler Murray's return, the Cardinals and the Falcons battled. This was one of 6 on the Week 10 slate that was decided by a field goal as time expired, which is the most in NFL history. This game was pretty back and forth with 7 lead changes. With 2.5 minutes to go, a full field, and down 1 point, Kyler Murray and the offense responded by driving 70 yards and kicking a game-winning field goal. For Atlanta, Bijan Robinson had 95 yards and a touchdown, and Atlanta's offense combined for a total of 184 yards on the ground with 2 touchdowns. On the other side of things, Kyler Murray threw for 249 yards without a touchdown and with 1 interception, but ran for 33 yards and did score on the ground. Cardinals pick up the second dub on the season with a 25-23 victory. In Dallas, we knew it was going to be a blowout as the Cowboys came into the game as a 17.5-point favorite, and that's exactly what happened. Despite turning the ball over twice, the Cowboys won 49-17. Producing 640 yards of total offense compared to the Giants' 172. Dak Prescott threw for 400 yards and had 4 touchdowns, and CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks each had over 150 receiving yards and a touchdown. So in Seattle, the Commanders and Seahawks game started off as a hard-fought defensive battle with the teams going into half tied at 9. Both offenses then came alive in the second half, and down 7 with less than 4 to go in the fourth, Sam Howell led the Commanders on a 10-play, 71-yard touchdown drive to tie the game at 26. Not to be outdone, Geno Smith and the Seahawks offense got the ball on their own 25-yard line, and with 52 seconds remaining in the game, drove down the field to kick, another game-winning field goal as time expired. Seahawks win 29-26 and remain tied with the 49ers on top of the NFC West. In Vegas, the Jets and Raiders game lived up to the defensive showdown it was expected to be with 7 field goals and 10 punts. Go soccer. The Jets went up 9-3, and in a game where that looked like it might be enough offense to get the job done, the Raiders fought back to tie it at 9, and then eventually scored the game's only touchdown to go up 16-9. After a couple more failed drives, the game came down to a final Hail Mary. Zach Wilson made an impressive play to avoid Max Crosby and threw it up in the end zone, but the ball found the turf, and the Raiders won their second game under interim coach Antonio Pierce, 16-12. In Buffalo, the Monday night game shaped up to be an incredible game of terrible football. On the first offensive play, James Cook fumbled the ball, and that set the tone for the Bills. They went on to turn over the ball 3 more times, including an interception that bounced off the hands of Gabe Davis. Struggling to get the offense going, in the second quarter, Russell Wilson and Courtland Sutton combined for an incredible touchdown, but then the Broncos missed the extra point. Despite all the turnovers, Buffalo's defense kept them in the game, and late in the fourth it was tied at 15. With 5 minutes left, Javonte Williams found the end zone to give the Broncos the lead, but a botched hold led to another failed extra point attempt. Now down by 6, the Bills answered quick, as James Cook busted a couple big runs, including one where he fumbles the ball, dribbling it off the turf, catching it for another 29 yards. Josh Allen then caps off the drive by punching it in on the ground. Now down by 1, thanks to the failed extra point attempts, the Broncos start driving down the field. As they near field goal range, the Bills bring some heat and sack Russell Wilson. Then, on a crucial third down, the Bills bring pressure again, but this time Russell Wilson throws it up and draws a pass interference from the Bills. Now, In an effort to leave the Bills without time, the Broncos attempt a Mayday field goal, which they push right. But the Bills had 12 men on the field, and they get a second chance. This time, Will Lutz did not miss, and the Broncos became the 6th team this weekend to win with a walk-off field goal. All in all, it was another exciting week of football. A lot of good games, a lot of close games, a few blowouts, but all in all, some good games. And so if you're enjoying this content, love it if you'd hit that subscribe button. You can stay up to date with what we're doing here at Undrafted.